Allow me to be the first to say,
No! No! Ah! No! 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 No!
I don't know why I didn't see it coming. After the relief of Alan Jones getting through the King Paolo Cup unscathed, of course, it was only going to take 7 minutes for him to lose his shoulder down the back of the sofa, taking the shine off what was a pretty solid start by the 2021 British and Irish Lions, and finally another chance to see everyone's second favourite team, Jamie Joseph's much missed Japan, in action. So if we put the Alan Jones injury to one side and try to focus on the rugby, what did we learn about the Lions in their first hit out, and does this bode badly for Japan ahead of their resume to test match schedule? In 2017, Warren Gatland deliberately withheld much of his style of play for the tour matches, the Lions playing the most basic brand of rugby you could manage at an elite level without being tantamount to throwing the game, hiding as much about his team's shape, structures and tactics from the All Blacks as he possibly could. And in the first half in particular on Saturday, we saw major signs that he might do the same in 2021. The Lions showed us virtually nothing of how they intended to face the Springboks. Some of this will be 6D chess by Gatland, some will just be the fact his side only met up for the first time 2 weeks ago and wouldn't have had time to assemble a particularly intricate game plan, but the Lions' first attack, 5 minutes into the game, and eventually resulting in a try for Labrador in a skin suit Josh Adams, was as basic as they come. At the minute, referees are extremely hot on backs not entering the area around a line-out before it's officially called us over, which is one of those laws that's always been the case, but nobody ever really gave a shit about until recently, a bit like dropping your shoulder into somebody's face, and 2 of the Lions' tries came from trying to weaponise this rule. The law is thus: any players who are not a part of the line-out, that's everyone but the guys in this line, plus whoever's in at hooker and scrum half, cannot come within 10 metres of the line-out until either there's a ruck or the ball leaves the line-out zone. It travels in any direction beyond this, be it across the 50-metre line, the 5-metre line, or far enough forward or backwards. So the Lions put winger Josh Adams into the line-out, meaning he can spill out and stand here, flat to the maul, without being offside. So if Japan overcommit to defending the maul, Murray can put him over in the corner without fear of being penalised. France tried to do this in Six Nations, and it's safe to say Gregor Townsend was taking notes. However, Shigeno notices Adams and points him out, meaning Japan, watch him. But Adams is only a detail, not the entire plan. Now, as we said, once the ball crosses the 50-metre line, the line-out is over, even if it's still in the maul. So the Lions slowly crab sideways, Japan having halted most forward momentum. The moment it hits the 50 metres, Bundy Arki sprints in, and his opposite number, Ryota Nakamura, who is as alert a 12 as you'll ever find, notices and matches him by entering himself. At this point, the backs can go anywhere, so Dan Bigger flashes round from the blind side the moment Nakamura enters, and both Lafayette and Matsushima, now the only 2 Japanese defenders left outside the maul, notice this. Lafayette takes a step backwards, and this creates a hole for Robbie Henshaw to fling his entire body at, like a lemming who just got really into WWE. Matsushima is watching Bigger, so has to leave Lafayette one-on-one for the tackle, but the whole situation has been worked so smartly to create this precise small hole for Henshaw to hit and eventually score. The Adams try, however, deals with this law much more directly. The Lions are hoping to send professional big boy Bundyaki well across the gain line, but Japan's 7 Labuschagne spots him before the ball goes in. However, as I mentioned in my video speculating on how the Lions might play, this team favours forwards with strong skill sets who can deliver crisp passes, and Warren Gatland has talked about how Sam Simmons' inclusion was in part because of how useful he can be on line-out moves, and we saw one such thing right here. As Owen throws in, Justin Tipper, oh god, no, oh no, oh god, why, oh no. Justin Tipperick runs out and fills in to play 9. Sakate at the tail sees a forward and jams in to hit him, but Tipperick's pass is as good as any test caliber back, so he hits Arki. Labuschagne is expecting Sakate to cover this space so he can fly up, but Tipperick's fix allows Arki to scream past the pair of them into the hole. This is a ploy Wales have used all the time under Wayne Pivac, and one Scotland started using in the second half of the Six Nations, a classic Toonie tweak. But from there, it's just extraordinarily Gatland. Warren loves a winger picking and going in the 22, trying to use players with finishing instincts in tight spaces. So, after the carry, Josh Adams comes in to pick and go before sprinting back out to his wing as the Lions rumble on. This is rugby. A team like this could play if they'd met half an hour before kickoff, never mind 2 weeks, and it eventually leaves Japan merely numbered up. Adams one-on-one with debutant Seo Fafita is a horrible tackle attempt by Fafita, who, in fairness, plays in the Japanese top league, so he probably hasn't had to make a tackle since about 2018. However, it's a brilliant finish by Adams, and it's super old school rugby. The Lions using a flash of 2021 to get going so they can revert back to the kind of play that was all the rage in like 2008 or something. For anyone who hasn't seen it, the Japanese top league is a fascinating artifact of modern rugby, where the attack is absolutely as good as any league in Europe, but the defence is closer to a game of underrated touch. And I think that kind of showed. I don't think any of the free tries Japan conceded in the first half would have happened in the World Cup, where the team had spent months gelling together, training so they're prepared to make more than 3 tackles in the game, and trying to come up with Japanese words for radical new concepts like line speed. Frankly, I don't think any of these tries will be scored by Ireland next week either. The Lions exploiting some rust and inexperience in certain areas of the Japan 15 that they largely sorted out by the second half. Fafita was once again at fault in homegrown Edinburgh boy Duan van der Merwe's try, here being baited into a ruck instead of covering the blindside, leaving loads of space for die-hard Hearts fan van der Merwe to run it down the touchline. One of Fafita's forwards really should have noticed this and covered, but that's what not having to defend for 18 months will do to you. A winger who always had a pretty good game, making 2 minor defensive errors on his first cap is forgivable, it happens all the time. But when you're making those errors directly in the path of maybe the 2 best finishers in Europe, that's going to cost you probably the game. However, whilst 2 tries built on a crash ball 12 and pick and go wingers was very Warren Gatland, the final try, scored by real life Squidly Diddly, the drumming octopus himself, Tyke Byrne, was very Gregor Townsend. As I speculated in the previous half-hour behemoth, the Lions have indeed adopted the 1-3-2-2 pattern Townsend has been using with Scotland. I go into the strengths and history of the tactics in the previous video more if you want to go into some detail, but in the first half we barely saw it. The Lions falling back on old-school rugby boys, especially in the 22, bringing forwards around the corner and using straight-up hands on smash-ups, barely playing anything further out. In fact, Byrne's try was the only time we saw the Lions really try and make their pattern work through phase play. The rest of the time we saw them revert to the same tactic Razzie Erasmus' Springboks have used since he took over. Play 5 or 6 phases of smashing it up, then, if you haven't created a try-scoring opportunity, hang a chaseable kick and try to keep up momentum. Instead, the Lions lined up a bit like this. Justin Tipuric occupied the 1 spot, with the entire front row operating as a group near the ruck, then the lock and back rows intermingled into 2 wider groups, Jack Conan on the far extreme and Tyke Byrne in tighter to use his handling and offloading. We did see passages where Courtney Laws or even Rory Sutherland filled in as an edge forward, but that was no more than a placeholder whilst the Lions found their shape. However, once the Lions switched it up and put Byrne out wide with Falatau in closer. And so, after a quick counter-attack here by Williams, the Lions play 1 phase through Henderson just to buy themselves time, and they get into this shape perfectly. Once again, the front row are grouped as a 3, Owens carries, and the Lions reload quickly. Bigger trying to get octopus arms into a dogleg. We then see a ploy the Lions ran repeatedly in this game. From a ruck near the touchline, the Lions leave Bigger blindside and play to a forward in field who passes to Bigger looping in behind, trying to hide himself behind to try and get it wide. Here, it doesn't work and almost results in a try for Masashima. And back to this one yet, Michael Leach spots him coming a mile off and points it out. Bigger's body language means the ball can only go to Henshaw, so Nakamura smashes in. Again, doesn't really work. Dan Bigger had an excellent game, but he's not a 10 who suits this play, and it's one the Lions seem fairly set on from this game. Frankly, neither is Farrell. So I wonder if it's a deliberate red herring, something Gatland is going to persist with in these warm-ups in the hope Nine Neighbour asks Peter Steph Toy to keep a real eye out for it in the tests. What Bigger can do, however, is this. Floating the ball really nicely outside the Japanese defence and allowing Conan on the edge to carry. The Lions have gone wide to wide in 1 offload and start working back to the other wing, so Japan start watching for keeping a close eye on the forwards, whilst Labuschagne here watches a regular feature of any Toonie attack. Scotland love to leave a forward on the fly halves inside, meaning if ever Finn or whoever else is in trouble of being smashed, they can just drop the ball off to him and he can take the hit with far less damage sustained than it would be by smashing Finn Russell himself. Courtney Lawes plays this role and Josh Adams hides himself behind him, allowing him to hit the hole with no Japanese defenders watching him until he catches the ball. There's then a little bit of space here in front of Rory Sutherland, so he carries whilst the Lions revert back and find their shape again, only Liam Williams clearing out. Furlong hits it up and bigger cause for the Lions to go back blindside, no space yet created. I speculated before, the Lions might use backs as forwards and Dylan van der Merwe and Lee Williams both here play a kind of traditional flankers role, carrying tight and clearing out respectively. Bigger floats across as Lawes carries in and calls the ball out quick, sensing this is finally the moment. Now, as I was on the crowd and on the touchline on this side, you can't really see this on the match footage, so you have to take my word for it because it did happen, but Bundy Arkey was on this touchline calling, screaming for the cross kick the entire time, and it forces both Japanese centres to take wider positions. So, as the ball comes out the ruck, the Lions are lined up a bit like this. Tyke Byrne operating as the 1 in the 1-3-2-2, which at the moment, this point is more of a 1-2-3-2, but that's whatever. He starts right out on the wing. The Japanese forwards are watching the two-man group here, and Nakamura has eyes on Henshaw at the back, but instead Byrne rips inwards from the wing and picks a hell of a line between Nakamura and Maffei and has the pace to pass Yamanaka to score under the post. It's both a brilliant solo score by Byrne, picking an incredible angle, and the best piece of team play the Lions have put together all game. It's almost like the Lions then went, well, brilliant, we've proven we can do that now, and should have gone down, barely playing or even getting an opportunity to do that between that score and the final whistle as Japan finally started to click. There was some really nice attack by them all game. Never mind a phone box, right? Kotaro Mashishima could beat a man on the back of an iPhone, but it was only after Jamie Joseph made the inspired decision to empty his bench, changing the scrum half, both props and two back rowers at the same time, the momentum really swung. I thought Ryota Nakamura had a fantastic game, but there's a strong argument that Japan's three best players were number 8 Tafita Tatafu, clearly fuming after his 5-year absence from Test rugby, debutant scrum half Naoto Sayoto, who plays a bit like Faf de Klerk if you remove the Wasp DNA, and Kazuki Himeno, who has been one of the best players on the planet for several years now, and I'm glad everyone's finally starting to catch up now that he spent a season in New Zealand. Japan used this ball over the top to Mashishima repeatedly, and it got them instant go forward, but the difference in the second half was how they reloaded after it. Craig Miller and Tatafu here grab Van der Merwe and drag him into the way of the Lions forwards, preventing them folding around the corner and covering, while Saito whips the ball away. Expecting this, Japan have run round into shape before Mashishima's even stopped. Japan then play 6 phases in the next 20 seconds, only slowing when a hell of a shot comes in on Miller. But the Lions are so used to Japan's fast play, Henderson expects Saito to keep up the pace. False starts and creates a little dogleg which Tamura notices and sends Ivalo into. Forward momentum regained, Saito picks and goes to up the pace whilst Japan do lose the ball shortly afterwards. They find themselves back in their own 22. They don't actually then find it that difficult at all to get going again. Miller here clears beyond the ruck once again and slows the Lions forward to the open side, meaning Moore's pick and go can take out the only players who have managed to work round. They're taken out altogether, and Nakamura and Tamura can then execute perfectly to create space for the two-man group out wide. Himeno fixing bigger and putting Labuschagne away. They then reload and change the point of focus once more. Nakamura engaging the line and looking to offload before he knows anyone's even there, putting Ivalu into a hole and drawing the penalty. From that, Japan then go to the corner and the Lions players expect a maul here, but instead they drop it off to Himeno, who just world classes himself over the try line for Japan's what ended up being their only try. But it did still just kind of keep happening. It took Japan a half to click, but given the impetus of Tatafu and Himeno, I genuinely think had the rogue T-boy not brought on the kicking team and forced Tamura to take 2 kicks at goal that they didn't want to take, that totally stalled their momentum and ruined their attacks, Japan could very easily have scored another 2 tries. They very almost got another through Himeno himself. All momentum was with them, the Lions starting to coast a bit, struggling to win the ball back, with Japan shifting the point of focus so fast and so easily. If I were Irish and playing this team next week, rust out of their system, I would be worried. But if I were the Springboks, I'd be licking my lips, frankly. Japan went for the 6-2 bomb squad idea, pioneered by the Boks in the World Cup, and bringing the bench on en masse turned the game almost entirely, wresting all momentum from a Lions team who had been completely on top for 57 minutes. The Lions lost control of that game when Japan used their bench smartly, and using their bench smartly is something Rassie Erasmus does better than anyone else in the world. South Africa will never give the Lions a 28-point head start, but an injection of power like Japan got from, say, Jasper Wiese and RJ Snyman could easily turn around a 7-10 point lead if Gatland isn't very careful. Saturday had perhaps more to scream about than shout about for the Lions, but it was ultimately as solid as opening games get, probably helped by the fact they're playing a proper recognised international team that they could prepare for instead of a 15 of Eastern Cape's finest carpenters. So there's plenty to build on for Conor Murray and his squad. The Lions now land in South Africa to play the Lions for a match where the jokes just write themselves, while the Springboks also get up and running finally. It's been a long time this weekend, taking on everyone's favourite living, breathing bunch of boulders with beards, Georgia. It's time for us to put the behind us and look forward, because the Lions tour has officially begun. Thank you for watching that. The Lions tour has officially begun. It's officially underway. It's actually happening. And the Springboks playing on Friday. So that's all going to be coming next week. I'm going to be looking at those two games. I want to thank Vodafone for giving me a ticket to the game. That's enormously appreciated. Thank you. Official Lions sponsor, of course. And yeah, a huge, exciting thing just to be in a crowd again. Thank you for everyone that's watching on Patreon. Thank you to everyone that's listened. I've been doing a podcast on the 2009 Lions. If you want to have a listen to that, going over each game by game. And also just to mention the Harlequins thing, which obviously I would have loved to have done a video in the Premiership final. I couldn't fit it in time-wise, so I'm planning on going back and looking at how Harlequins went from being a kind of mid-table side who just fired their coach to winning the Premiership. I'm going to try and do a full deep dive on that after the Lions, so I'm going to come back to that probably ahead of next season. So that's the plan. That's what's going on, and I'll see you next week for more Lions/Springboks.